Views expressed by Casters Guild members are only the opinions of that member, and that could change from day to day. Guild members may use mature language, but that in no way means they are mature. Listener discretion is advised.
We have a lot of things we want to talk to you about, and sometimes those things don't always fit in our normal episodes. And so we bring you Casters Guild Cantrips. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Casters Guild Cantrips. I am your Guild Master Ric Perry, the D-pad destroyer.
And I am your Guild Master Baron Kane. I really like the N64 controller.
And joining us again is a returning Guild officer. Feel free to introduce yourself.
My name is Billy Caraballo, and I'm a big fan of the Vader 3 controller.
Ooh.
Yes, Vader 3, it's a great controller.
I'm one of those weirdos who is super into the GameCube controller.
That's not a bad one. It's not as bad as the N64 one. Sorry, Brett.
No, it's fine.
I understand that piracy in video games is getting pretty rampant, and it's not the fault of the pirates.
It's not always the fault of the pirates, no. In this case, I'm putting blame on, hey, you know what? I'm not sure where you're going with that. You said it's not the fault of the pirates.
Okay, so here's my problem with the current game industry, right? And honestly, it's specifically Nintendo. Other companies are guilty of this, but specifically Nintendo, because Nintendo cracks down on pirates left and right.
Yes, they do.
But they also make it impossible to play their old games. So they don't want you to buy pre-owned. They don't want you to pirate, but they never lower the prices of their games, and they very rarely re-release except in really weird specific ways.
Yes, and I wanted to touch upon that, especially for Nintendo. They seem to be the biggest culprits of this. They do have a virtual console for the current generation system that you can emulate several different systems on it, such as the Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo, Nintendo Entertainment System, Game Boy, and I believe we just started with Game Boy Advance, which is an amazing stride in the system, in the reissue community. One of the biggest things that Nintendo faults at is they only support these systems and these reissues in their current generation. Once this current generation is over with, they drop it like a rock.
Mm-hmm. And that's the problem with all the digital reissues versus an actual physical game.
Exactly. And right now, Nintendo's big system is called the Nintendo Switch. That is toward the end of its usefulness cycle. It's getting ready to get replaced by the Switch 2. Once the Switch 2 comes out, those old retro games that worked on the Virtual Console will not work on the Switch 2, which is by design. And that's going to cause a problem. That problem being that these old games are not going to be available to play anymore except by pirates, by using emulators and ROMs.
Right. Yeah, it was always a problem. I mean, it's gotten a little bit better because of the Virtual Console, but it was always a problem if, like, let's say I didn't have any video game console whatsoever, and I was like, you know what? When I was a kid, I used to really like to play Pokemon. I want to go play Pokemon. And now the only way to, quote-unquote, legally go play Pokemon is to go buy a secondhand Game Boy, go buy a secondhand copy of Pokemon, both of which are not cheap, because the secondhand market, I think especially for Pokemon, a used copy of Pokemon's more expensive than the new one was when it first came out at this point. So I got to spend $150 plus to go feel a little bit of nostalgia legally. And even then, Nintendo doesn't like me doing that. They hate the pre-owned market.
They do, and they do what they can to squash it. So the use of emulators is a very strange, weird area in the law. The way the law is actually written, the use of an emulator is not illegal, as long as copyrighted material is not used to create the emulator or to break code for the original system. So there's a lot of systems out there that can be emulated legally. What becomes illegal is those ROMs. And what a ROM is a game file. That is, for basics, it is a game file that is ripped from the cartridge or the CD into a computer file that the emulator can read and you can play the game. Emulators is a very strange, sticky legal area. I have a survey from from a large Midwestern university, about 516 undergraduate students. They were asked a series of questions here about emulators. One of the things they were asked is if it's illegal to create them. Over 60% said yes, with no being about 39%. They didn't know whether if it was illegal to distribute them. They all said it was illegal to distribute. 74.6%, 25.4% said no. Is it illegal to download them? 68% said yes, 32% said no. So it seems like most people are under the understanding that emulator and ROM use is illegal. But when it comes to being able to play them, 45.6% people say no, it is, or yes, it is illegal to play. 54.4% say no. So playing them becomes legal. So this shows me that people just do not understand the legalities of emulators and ROMs.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I don't really know the full implications of the legality on the ROMs or, the emulators. I know that there is a certain point where it becomes illegal. And
yes.
And that's where I get kind of lost.
That point becomes really cut and dry when it comes to the ROM. The ROM is a game file, and if you do not own that original game, you cannot have that ROM because you don't have the original media in which it was originally created in. One of the things that I wanted to step on this podcast and do is to speak to gamers, retro gamers, and current gamers alike, and to prevent this piracy, to prevent Nintendo from gouging prices and doing things as such. I think we need to support the actual retro games that have been re-released, which there have been a handful in the last few years that have been re-released in their full unaltered status. One of the recent ones is SNK vs. Capcom Chaos. It's a fighting game originally released for the Neo Geo in 2003, was recently re-released, I would say 2 weeks ago. So that would be, let's just say that was, it was re-released on the 14th of July, 2024. The game right now is doing extremely successful. It's got a very healthy online battle system and many different upgrades that the old version didn't have. By supporting this game, we're telling the game companies, if you re-release the retro games as they were with improvements, we're going to support those and we're going to buy them.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think that hitting those games from like the retro games, they does hit that nostalgia button. But if they re-release them with those improvements, with those, those quality of life improvements,
quality of life
makes them more, fun for modern gamers. That that would be amazing.
It is. It is amazing when it's amazing when it does happen.
Voting with your dollar pretty much always works in capitalism.
Yep.
Yes, it does. Unfortunately, almost always. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes somebody else's dollar means a lot more than yours.
Yeah, I think that's another problem with Nintendo, as far as like the voting with your dollar not always working, because the fans have made it very clear what they're willing to buy and what they're willing to spend money on, and yet Nintendo still kind of does whatever Nintendo wants to do.
Have you guys ever heard of a game called Doki Doki Panic?
Oh yeah, very familiar.
Do you? How about you, Baron? Are you familiar with Doki Doki Panic?
I have never played it. I have heard the name of the game.
Has anybody ever played it besides me?
Okay. I have played. I've played what has come from Doki Doki Panic, but not Doki Doki Panic specifically.
Okay, Doki Doki Panic is a game that was released.
God,
you okay?
Realized what it was.
yeah. It's Nintendo rebranded it, but yeah, I've played the rebranded version, but I did not play the original Doki Doki Panic.
So Doki Doki Panic is a Japanese game for the Family Computer Disk System, otherwise known as the Famicom Disk System, released in July 10th, 1987. It's an interesting system. It is an add-on to the Famicom Disk, or the Famicom Computer System, which in the United States was released as an NES, or Nintendo Entertainment System. We didn't get this. This is a add-on system in which you use a floppy disk to play games. As a matter of fact, if you try to play this game, you have to take the disc out, turn it over, and put it in on the other side to actually play that. It's quite cool. This is a game that has never been released in the United States. It has, well, let me rephrase. It was released in the United States under a different name of Super Mario Bros. 2, which is a different controversy that we're not going to talk about here. But Doki Doki Panic itself was never released. What pirates and ROM hackers done is they went and they translated this game into English, ROM hacked it, which means change the actual file, use it in an emulator, and now you can play Doki Doki Panic at home in English and see what this game is like. Which is interesting because this game used to be, or is, Super Mario Brothers 2, and you can see what little subtle differences between them they are.
What's even better is somebody actually took that file and put it on an NES cartridge, so you can actually now play Doki Doki Panic on a US version of the NES.
Right, and these are all the different cool things that you could do with ROMs and emulators that hackers and other translators have figured out how to do. Now, this stuff has never trickled to the major game companies. They don't do stuff like this. They don't realize that we want a ROM or we want a translation of a game that we've never played, or we want a remake of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which came out on Sega Saturn. But on the Sega Saturn version, you could play as 4 different characters, whereas in the original version that came out for PlayStation, you're stuck playing whatever character that you're stuck with.
You get 2.
You get 2. It was Alucard and
Richter.
But
you have to unlock the Richter version. They technically make it like a separate version of the game, like a different game mode.
Yeah, in the Sega Saturn version, there's 4 characters ready to go right from the start. These kind of things need to be re-released, and PlayStation's got a pretty good handle on them. At least it seems like that at first. I have some old figures here. We're going to talk mostly about PlayStation 3 and Vita store. PlayStation claimed they're going to keep those stores open as long as possible, which is awesome. But what happened is they went and put some new security measures into the PlayStation Network to prevent whatever it is that they're supposed to prevent. And what it essentially did was lock out PlayStation 3s and PlayStation Vitas from that store. And that store contained most of the God of War catalog that you can't get. If you're familiar with the God of War games, they're pretty popular. And I know a lot of people would love to play God of War 1, God of War 2, the 2 God of Wars for the PlayStation Portable, but those aren't available anymore in any way, shape, and form.
Ghost of Sparta was fucking awesome.
Was Ghost of Sparta the one with his brother?
Yeah.
Yes, it was awesome.
Spoiler alert.
Right, and if the PlayStation 3 store worked, because it's still up, it just doesn't work. If it still worked, you can actually get Ghost of Sparta for PlayStation 3 remastered and play it with modern graphics, widescreen, 1080p, all those other cool things, but you can't because the store is down.
Geez, Sony, get with it.
Mm-hmm.
I know. What's wrong with you, Sony?
I mean, we could spend an entire podcast just talking about what's wrong with Sony.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Next week on the Casters Guild, Sony.
We hardly
So
knew.
I got a good question for you guys. How much are you willing to pay for a PC console or PC game or just a console game? Just a game in general. How much are you willing to pay?
$60.
I'm willing to go up to 70 at this point, depending on the game.
Okay. What about a retro game?
I mean, again, it depends if it is being. Let's just use Final Fantasy for example. I would love a $30 price point for that. I think anything more than that, especially for if there's nothing done with it, if they just took the game, plopped it into a new thing like Steam or something like that, $30, that's fine.
I would also like to say $30. However, if I'm being realistic, I have an alert set up for a particular GBA game to where if it drops below a certain price, it will alert me so I can immediately purchase it because it's next to impossible to get your hands on. It's called Boke Tai, The Sun Is in Your Hand. Right now it's going for about $280. If it ever drops below $100, I'll get an alert and I will buy it at $100. So
To play it on Game Boy Advance?
Game Boy Advance, yeah.
That's awesome.
Boke Tai, The Sun Is in Your Hand was a Game Boy Advance game about slaying vampires. And your main character has a solar-powered gun that he uses to slay vampires. And the cartridge has an actual solar panel in it that will detect if you are within sunlight. And that will charge the gun in the actual game, which is one of the reasons this is so hard to get your hands on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go. So I've never heard of that game, but that sounds like the hardest game to find, and that's something that's not going to get reissued. It comes with a solar panel. That's crazy.
Or like at least some sort of solar detector. I mean, like I used to know all of the information on it, but like it definitely like has a feature on the cartridge. Like if you remember, like Pokemon Pinball had a rumble in the cartridge.
Yes,
Because the system itself, it's like that, like where it's like tall. The cartridge is taller because it has like this solar sensor in it, where like it will not activate in the game unless you are actually in the sun.
that's crazy. That's crazy. I've never heard of that. I can't believe that. As much retro gaming as I do, and I mess around with all these systems and stuff, I've never heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, let's see. What else do we need to go through? Oh, yeah. I was asking you guys how much you're willing to pay. That same survey about the large Midwestern University, 516 students, they were asked how much they're willing to pay for a retro game on PC or console, and the majority of them, 40.2%, said $10 or less. Now,
Oh my God.
well, I don't know what the exact parameters of that question were because, Baron, you had a really good point. If this is just basically the original game pooped onto the new system, how much are you really willing to pay for that? How much are you willing to pay for Super Mario Brothers 3?
Right.
How much are you willing to pay for Metroid Prime if it's just the same game?
$15
These are-
and $25 respectively.
Yeah.
$15 and 25.
And it would definitely come down to, my preferences. If let's just say game I really, really enjoy, game I'm okay with, or game I just am willing to try, but I don't have a lot of hopes for. I'd say, yeah, retro game, $30. I really, really want to play. $15, maybe. It's like, okay, maybe. And then like, $15, $20, I would say. And then maybe like $5 to $10, $15 for one that I'm like, not a big fan. It would all come down to personal preference. But I think that, yeah, I mean, but I wouldn't see myself paying like $40, $50, even if I really liked it.
Okay, next question here. Super Mario Brothers 3. How much would you pay for Super Mario Brothers 3, the Steam game, on Steam? Would you be willing to pay $25, $35, somewhere in there?
I've played so many versions of Super Mario Bros. 3 at this point. I already own so many versions of it that I'd probably only pay like $10. But if I didn't already own it and I hadn't already played 15 different versions of it because it's been re-released so many times, then I'd probably be willing to go up to 30.
I'm with you on that. Here's my take on that. Steam somehow hooks up with Nintendo and creates a virtual console or whatever Nintendo wants to do because they got to control it their own stupid way. It's very Disney of them. They release Super Mario Brothers 3. It's on Steam. I have a better feeling of safety that this is going to be available to me 5-10 years from now than if I bought this on the virtual console on the Switch. Super Mario Brothers 3. Is that going to be there 5-10 years from now? If my Switch breaks and I can't get a new Switch, can I get the Switch 2 and play that? I have a better feeling that it would stay on Steam, so I'm willing to pay a premium for that game on Steam.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All I'm asking, right, is Nintendo re-release your games, put them on PC, let us have fun, and let us play with them.
Yeah,
I'm not saying ROM hack them, but put them on PC. That way we can actually own them. Or at least license them, whatever it is that Steam does. A better idea, better than having we're going to shut this store down, this game's going to die on you. Rick, you own a Switch, right?
Correct.
Did you play that Super Mario Brothers game that came out? I think it was called Super Mario Brothers 30?
35.
35. And it lasted, what, 6 months?
Like, not even. It was I felt like it was less than a month.
I had a great time with that game. What if I told you I could pirate that game and using software, I can join a network and play Super Mario 35 just like it was, only at home pirated.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
It is pretty sweet. And if Nintendo would re-release that Super Mario 35 or just let it stay on, that would be pretty sweet too. Same thing with F-Zero 99, I think it was called.
I believe that was 99, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good time too.
Yeah. But that's Nintendo, right? I mean, they've had so many... The problem with Nintendo is twofold. They've had a lot of negative experiences with letting other people play with their properties. Hence the CDI Zelda and Mario games. And
wait a second. there's some good Capcom Zeldas out there.
Yes, yeah. They've had some good experiences too, but then there's also like the Super Mario Brothers movie. So,
I like that.
yeah, look, I like it too, but I can also recognize that it's a terrible movie.
Yeah, it's Street Fighter. Yeah, it's a great bad movie.
They've had a very bad experience letting other people play with their properties, and you have people like me, a lot of Nintendo fans like me, that every time they take a game away and then re-release it on a new system, a new way, a new re-release, we're still going to buy it. And the thing is, they know that. And they know if they put it on Steam, we'd buy it once and then never touch it again because we have it. We can play it whenever we want right there on Steam. Whereas, like, if they take it away from us on Wii and then they re-release it on Switch, we're going to buy it again. And that's, since it's digital, it's pretty much all profit for them.
That's true. That is 100% true. Nintendo will do that. But to counter that, even though I 100% agree with that, I can't really counter that without just, making stuff up. If Nintendo were to release Super Mario Bros. 3 on Steam, and yeah, they're going to lose revenue because they can't re-release it again and again and again, they could do something cool called updating it. And they could also add new features to Super Mario Bros. 3. I go back to ROM hacks. I have a ROM hack. I mean, I've seen a ROM hack of Super Mario Bros. 3 where you could play as Mario, Peach, or let me be real, Princess Toadstool. I'm old. Toad or Luigi, and they have the same attributes they had in the American version of Super Mario Bros. 2. And it's Super Mario Bros. 3 all the way, exactly the same, except for those things. And they added that Toad can kick, since he didn't really have anything cool Super Mario Bros. 2 he could do besides being super fast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So Nintendo can do stuff like that. It can come out every 6 months. Hey, here's a DLC for Super Mario Bros. 3. That's crazy, isn't it? Can you just think of that? Super Mario Bros. 3, here's a DLC. Here's another 12 levels. Who knows? They can do all kinds of stuff. Nintendo knows how to leech money.
Yeah.
Yes.
What they do is they try to create false scarcity. They have Disney's playbook. Remember when Disney would release The Little Mermaid for 12 months on VHS, and this is the last time you're going to get it. You're going to throw it in the vault. So Nintendo's they're going to release Super Mario Bros. 3 for the Virtual Console, but don't worry, the Virtual Console is only going to be around for about 5 years, and then they're going to throw the Virtual Console in the vault next to The Little Mermaid and Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, at least Disney started with putting stuff out on Disney Plus. Where's that, Nintendo?
Yeah, where's Nintendo's Disney Plus?
I guess that's the Virtual Console, but still.
Yeah, I don't like the Virtual Console. I don't. I'm used to my ROMs and emulators. And
do you have the international version?
The international version of the Virtual Console?
Yeah.
No, I don't have the international version. That sounds real shady.
So it's not. You just have to access the Virtual Console via a VPN for like Japan.
I have one of those. Yeah.
It might be a little bit more complicated than this, honestly. I'm on a family account for Virtual Console. So like the person who's the head of the family account is the one who did this, not me. And I just have access to it. I never even accessed anything with my Switch. It's just on their account, so I have access to it. But I now have the NES sitting right next to the Famicom Virtual Console. And the Famicom Virtual Console gives me access to different games that the NES doesn't. And I have Super Nintendo sitting right next to the Super Famicom, and so on and so forth. So there are more games available that way, and it doesn't cost any extra money. It's just a matter of unlocking the feature on your system.
That's pretty dope. But another thing about the piracy, here's where piracy, in my opinion, is a good thing. We're not going to put this in the class. This is for the podcast. Okay. This is juicy. This is good stuff.
We'll bring in the juice.
We're gonna bring in the juice.
The juicy juice.
I love me some ROM hacks. I love juice too, but I love me some ROM hacks. There is nothing better than somebody that's much smarter than me destroying Pokemon Emerald and breaking it down to its bare bones, adding 900 extra Pokemon in there, re-releasing it as a totally different game for free for me to play. That's the stuff I love. And I love that about the ROM and emulator community. That stuff is dope. There's an
Have
entire website.
Have you ever played Pokemon This Gym of Mine?
This gym of mine, there's so many Pokemon hacks. I'll never get through a third of them. Right now, I'm stuck on Pokemon Emerald Rogue, which is a roguelike Pokemon game. But tell me about yours.
Pokemon This Gym of Mine, also known as TGOM, you play a gym leader. So you start by choosing your type for your ace, and then they give you a Pokemon of that type. So, for example, I chose Ghost type for my gym. So they gave me Duskull from the very beginning. And then you kind of go through an entire Pokemon game, but every once in a while you'll get challengers to come and challenge your gym. And as you take down more and more challengers, you become a higher and higher ranked gym leader until possibly you can become a member of the Elite Four.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, when you get challenged, do you have to walk your happy ass back to your gym?
So it's usually you get challenged when you are at your gym. So you get opportunities to go out and quest and get new Pokemon. And there's like rules for like once you actually set up your team for challengers. I believe it's you can't have more than one Pokemon on your team that doesn't have at least one of your ace types. So like you can have one Pokemon. Guy can have one Pokemon that's not a ghost type. But everything else has to have at least ghost type as one of the two types that it has.
I may seek that out after we're done here. That's pretty cool.
And it's really weird because I accidentally soft locked the game the first time I played it. Because me choosing ghost as my typing, one of the first areas, all the Pokemon are normal type. So like I literally couldn't catch anything because I couldn't damage it, and it couldn't damage me because they were using just normal type moves and I was using just ghost type moves. So because I missed my opportunity to catch like a Pidgey at the very beginning, so that way I could use the Pidgey against some of the things that the Duskull couldn't damage. So,
that's hilarious.
So yeah, you can. It is very much a ROM hack where they have not accounted for every possibility, but it's still a ton of fun.
Do you know what the source game was?
I don't. I want to say it's one of the Gen 2 ones, but I could be wrong. No, obviously it's a Gen 3 one because I started with the Duskull. So,
well, you can't say obviously.
Oh yeah, that's fair enough.
They'll put anything in there. Like the Emerald game I'm playing right now, there's some from the Switch Pokemon that are in there. I recognize like Corviknight. I think that's their name, the bird, the blue black bird. I'm too old to know all the new Pokemon, so I cap out at like Gen 3. If it's above Gen 3, I probably don't know them too much.
Yeah, I mean same. But except I did play a lot of Sword and Shield.
I played Black and White. I played Black and White.
It wasn't Sword and Shield. It was the new one. Scarlet Violet. Scarlet Violet.
Yes,
was the one I played a lot of.
I played that with the kid, but I don't remember anything. With the first 3 generations, I've played 400 times. I know those guys. So while I have this chance, I want to talk to retro gamers out there that specifically download ROMs to play on emulators. I would like to ask you guys, support the big game systems. I know this sounds weird, but stick with it. Stick with me here. Support the big game systems, because when they re-release the games that we want to play and we need to support them, they will continue re-releasing these games. For instance, we have a game, SNK versus Capcom Chaos, just got re-released. If we play this game and we buy this game and we do really well, we can go ahead and expect us to get the sequels to this game that came out years later.
I will say that we have voiced our opinions about pirating and stuff like that, but I believe that we are also staunch supporters of tactical support.
Tactical support. Now, there are problems with pirating, believe it or not. One of the biggest problems is it is a monetary problem for the original game issuers. They see it as losing money. Even though they're not re-releasing these games, you're infringing on their copyright, and that makes them mad. They have to protect their copyrights. So that's the possibility. By pirating games, you can go to jail. It hasn't happened, to my knowledge, but it is possible. So it's something you need to look out for, something you don't want to happen. Also, acquiring ROMs is not just search for them and you'll find them. They are kind of hard to find, and you have to go through some hoops to get the ROMs that you need, especially ones that are trustworthy. Which brings me to the next problem with piracy. Malware, viruses, Trojan horses, and other icky, spooky things that go bump in the night in the internet could be on that file. You run that file and you could ruin your computer. That is a huge problem, especially if you're some kind of person that's into using emulators and ROMs. You have a nice computer, you take care of it. So
there's a younger version of Master Ric that, before he really knew what he was doing with any of this kind of stuff, had what was called an R4 chip for his DS that basically let me download ROMs for DS games, put them on a mini SD card, put them in this little R4 chip, and the R4 chip looked like a DS cartridge, and then I could play, ROMs right there on my DS. And I attempted to download a ROM for the Minish Cap, and my entire internet went down. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And I called my ISP, my internet service provider, and they were like, yeah, you got caught downloading this ROM, so we shut off your internet, and you need to not do that anymore, or they're going to hit you with a lawsuit. And basically, I got hit with a cease and desist over one ROM that I got caught downloading. And they were like, yep, they were like, you're going to get hit with legal action if you're ever caught doing this again.
Nintendo of America.
Mm-hmm.
They're always out there. They're looking.
These are the kind of things that can happen with piracy.
Exactly. So I ask you guys, retro gamers, please support the retro games that are re-released. That way we can continue to have these re-released games that are safe, that are efficient, that are updated with quality of life problems taken care of, that we can all enjoy for years to come.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah, me too. Or, just download emulators and ROMs and know where to get them. And if you don't, I know someone who does, maybe, or maybe you know someone who does, and they can hook you up.
Let's look into
whatever.
That. Or not.
Whatever.
Download safely.
Or not. Yeah, download safely. Oh, and if you get a device that is specifically made to play these games and it comes with a chip that has games on it, take that chip and throw it away. Do not use those games. Those are terrible games. They look like the right game. They might even play like the right game, but they're not quality. Trust me. That chip is going to fail on you, and it's going to be bad.
Agreed.
I have one of those devices here, and I'm kind of waiting for my chip to fail. Good times.
I will say I continue to. Once again, I'm Nintendo's little bitch over here. I have supported a lot of those re-releases by buying things like the NES Mini and the SNES Mini, and which are basically just their own little emulator devices, honestly.
Yeah, but there's something about the casing, the Nintendo casing, the Super Nintendo casing. It's miniature, it's cute.
Yep.
It fits in the corner. There's something like it. I have the Sega Genesis one, and you can stick you can stick your fingers where the cartridge goes, and the little flaps go down, and then you can do a little volume thing that's on the Sega Genesis for those of you that actually had one and remember the little volume thing. Oh, it's cool.
I don't know if you have the same one that I have, but the reason the flaps on mine open is because they'll actually take a Genesis cartridge.
No, I don't think that this one will. I think it's too small. I mean, it might take a Game Gear cartridge.
Oh yeah. My Genesis Mini is still mini.
I like how he's going to get it on an audio podcast.
And his camera's off.
Yeah, I know. I was having issues with my camera. This actually opens, and you can actually put a Genesis cartridge in it, and it uses actual Genesis controllers. Like the actual input is the same of old school Genesis controllers. So yeah,
I have one of these. Genesis controllers are some of my favorite. I have one of these. I'm holding up a 8-bit DOE M30 wireless controller that is in the style of the Sega Saturn, Sega Genesis. It's got 6 buttons on the front, but the best thing is it's got that floating, weird, slidey D-pad. And if you're a fighting game fan like me, this D-pad is like finger sex. It is so smooth. It is so smooth. You are getting every Hadouken, every Shoryuken. They're all the dragon punches, and I hate everything about that controller except that D-pad.
Yeah, they used to call me Hadouken because I'm downright fierce.
Oh no, downright fierce. Man, I hope you're facing the right way.
They never called me Hadouken. I'm pretty terrible.
Oh man, I've been playing Street Fighter since I actually did play the first Street Fighter. I can't claim that I was good at it or anything. It was downstairs in the bodega at Turner Place where I used to live in New York. They had it there for like a week. I played it once or twice. I do remember it though because I remember it being particularly shitty. But I've been playing Street Fighter for like 30 years, and I am still the most mediocre player that has ever lived. Like if you play Street Fighter 6, I'm Sick Sad Billy. I'm ranked gold. Get at me.
The gauntlet has been thrown.
It is. I play Manon. She is a ballet dancing judoka from France. But I like grapplers, and I didn't feel like playing Zangief, so that's what I got.
So, if you are wanting to support re-releases and physical copies of games, even, I would also recommend checking out Limited Run Games. They're a company that is entirely dedicated to creating physical copies of games that are digital only, and they aren't doing it through illegal means. They're getting the permission of these companies that don't have a publisher to publish physical copies of the games, or even some companies that could publish physical copies, they just don't want to. So Limited Run is like, we will make a physical copy of this game, just give us a cut. And
wow, that's curious.
That's how I got my physical copy of Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Did it come with instructions?
Oh yeah. Oh my god, dude,
so cool.
Here's the thing, you don't even know, it came with so much. First, it came in like a briefcase that almost looked like an amp carry case.
That's huge.
When you open it, it's an entire light and sound stage of Sex Bomb playing on stage. It came with Sex Bomb drumsticks, it came with guitar picks, it came with the soundtrack on cassette.
Okay, so $150 over or under?
I wish I could remember. I want to say it was.
Okay.
I want to say it was 200.
Oh, I don't know if I'm that big of a fan.
It also isn't available anymore. When they say limited, when they say Limited Run Games, there's a reason that's the name of the company. Like every game that they release is very limited.
I wonder if those guys, Adult Swim recently delisted a bunch of games on Steam, and a lot of creators are losing money because now their games are gone. And they don't really have a say in it. I wonder if they can go to somebody like that and get some physical versions of it done.
Oh, probably. And they don't just do, like I got mine for Switch, right? And you could get it for PlayStation 3. You could get it for, I think, Xbox at the time. No, PlayStation 4. I think you could get it for Xbox at the time. But they'll also release games for the SNES or the Game Boy, and they're actual cartridges that actually work on their original systems. That's cool. There was a game that was digital only recently that came out called Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore. That was basically like, what if we made the Zelda CDI games, but they were good?
That is a what if.
And it actually is a pretty good game. You can get it on Steam, but the limited run physical version of it comes with a controller that you can plug into your PC and use that is like a CDI controller.
So this is like a supreme boutique business.
Yes.
That caters to like all 7 of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's insane. Limited Run Games. I'm going to have to look them up.
Yeah, and like I said, everything that they do is extremely limited, so it's best if you see that they are coming out with something that you're interested in to just pre-order it, because they usually don't have too many left over after pre-orders are done. And if they do, they get snatched up pretty quick.
I kind of think that the game is secondary at that point. It's like everything that comes with the game is pretty cool.
Oh, 100%. 100%. That and the people who are really into... Because, okay, I should rephrase. limited run games, when they do these physical releases, they have the standard edition and the special edition. And the standard edition is just the game. And then they have these great big special editions that come with all this extra stuff. The special editions are the ones that sell out like immediately. And then the standard editions you can usually get for a little while. And for the people who do collect physical media and want their games on physical media instead of just owning them digitally, this is a fantastic thing for them because they can get it physical media.
Yeah, this is cool. I'm checking them out now, just looking at all the stuff that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a couple games. There's a ton of stuff here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Shout out to Limited Run.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor, just a shout out. Just a shout out.
Billy, if anybody liked what you had to say and they want to find you anywhere else on the internet, where can they do that?
I am known worldwide by Six Sad Billy on all the major platforms, but most of my accounts are private and I don't post. So there's no real reason to follow me.
But they can find you on Street Fighter 6.
You could find me at Street Fighter. Bring your B and C games only. Do not bring your A game. I can't take it.
So thank you for joining us for our very first episode of Casters Guild Cantrips. Stay tuned for even more right after the break.
Could you use an awesome lightsaber for cosplay, dueling, or home decoration? Check out Level Up Sabers, the only lightsaber guaranteed better than a stick. And with lots of fairly priced options, including baselit and Xenopixel, you'll be able to find exactly what you're looking for without breaking the bank.
Every Level Up Saber comes equipped with color change, gesture controls, volume control, sound fonts, and flash on clash, with the baselit options being strong enough to duel with, and the Xenopixel options adding even more cool effects. To check them out and help Casters Guild, click our link in the description. So I've been listening to the new Childish Gambino album. Have you had the chance to hear it yet?
I have not. Well, wait a minute. I believe I've heard one of the songs off of the new album.
I'm pretty sure you have too. It's been all over. If you're on D&D TikTok at all, it's been on your For You page.
On why? Well, I gotta ask why would the D&D TikTok bring up his song?
So there's one song that got used by someone describing something that happened in their campaign, where their silly little NPC goblin called Fart Buckle.
You know, I've been meaning to look into the whole Fart Buckle thing. I had no clue what was going on there.
Every TikTok you see with Fart Buckle is using a song from his album.
Oh my gosh.
It's Lithonia, which that's the song I really want to talk about. And not because of the D&D For You page thing.
Sure. I didn't think so.
I stopped and I listened to the album from front to back because, I don't know, apparently I'm just all over Donald Glover recently. So there are songs that I listen to, and they'll take me to a particular part in my life, or I'll connect with it in a particular way and make me feel a particular type of emotion and elicit things from me. That's not what this song did.
Okay.
This song, after listening to it, I openly wept at the sheer beauty of the piece of art that was put in front of me.
Oh God.
Like, it didn't make me cry because it made me think of a certain person, or it made me think of a certain time, or elicited a certain emotion. It was just so fucking beautiful that, like, I couldn't help myself.
Gotcha.
It's difficult for me to remember a time when I just laid on the floor and actively listened to music, and that's all I could do for this, because it's just amazing. Now, the rest of the album is nothing to sneeze at either, but like that one song, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I'm behind, actually. I'm apparently still listening to music off of his last release.
Gotcha. Well,
like,
yeah, this one was like just released, and it's because of the movie. Like, it's basically the soundtrack. It's his last album is Childish Gambino, and also happens to be the soundtrack to his new movie that's coming out.
Which, yeah, I was kind of hoping that would happen.
Yeah,
I think we even talked about that.
Yeah,
him being a singer in the movie.
Yeah, and you were like, is any of the music supposed to be sung by him as the character? And I think it is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, still excited for that movie to come out. The music, I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Everything he touches turns to gold. It's just hit after hit, and it all just keeps getting better. It makes me sad that this is his last Childish Gambino album. Hopefully this is not his last foray into music. Like, maybe he'll just release something as Donald Glover in the future, or another name, who knows. I just hope he's not done with that. And even if he is, whatever else he makes, I'll be there for it.
Well, I just want people to know that when I get my spam hat, it has very little to do with Bando Stone and the New World. It has everything to do with me actually liking spam.
I mean, fair enough. All right, now I do want to take some time to talk about this Tenacious D thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
let me preface you before you get started.
Yeah,
I do want people to know that this isn't something that we were necessarily shying away from. You know, this is something that Rick and I had to speak to each other about before we talked about.
Yeah,
because it is, an important subject, and that's not necessarily something that we wanted to blindside each other with if there was a difference in opinion or whatnot.
Yeah, and we also didn't want to... We have, all of our episodes recently have had guests, and we definitely don't want to be blindsiding people who are on the podcast for the very first time with this sort of stuff. So for those who somehow don't know, basically they were on stage at a concert on their current tour, and it was Kyle's birthday, so Jack Black brings out a cake, or has, their robot bring out a cake, or whatever the bit is, and tells Kyle to make a wish, and Kyle made an offhanded joke about the attempted assassination of President Trump. And so while Jack Black, chuckled at the joke at the time, we all know that could have just been, that's how you deal with a awkward situation. Afterwards, Jack Black announced that he was canceling the tour, and all creative plans for them on the future were on hold. And it was all because he said it was because he could never condone hate speech or encourage political violence of any form. And that's why he did what he did. So now that you know what happened, let's get into how we feel about it.
And I will say that Rick and I both have a take, which are similar, but there are small differences that we are comfortable enough to share.
Yes. So I think both of these personalities, I think, handled the situation poorly. I don't think Kyle should have made that particular joke. I wouldn't have made that joke, regardless of how I feel about Trump. I also personally don't condone political violence of any type, unless you're punching a Nazi. I can kind of get behind that, but definitely not when you're on stage and you have a platform and you have a comedy partner of however many years that you have not run that joke by. I don't know, you're kind of speaking for multiple people at that point, whether you mean to or not. And then I think Jack Black in general just kind of overreacted to the whole thing. To cancel the entire tour and put all future plans on hold, I think is a huge overreaction to it.
Huge, yeah.
What I think should have happened is maybe after they got off stage, they should have had a conversation about it backstage, and then, come out together and said something about it together, whether it was an apology or however decided they could handle it. Unless there's just something we don't know where they did try to talk about it backstage and it was just a huge disagreement or something. But
see, I would have thought that too, except Kyle came out with a full-on apology afterwards.
Exactly. And that was exactly what I was about to say next is I don't think that's the case, because right after Jack Black was he shouldn't have said that, I'm canceling the tour and putting all future plans on hold, Kyle Gass then came out and was yeah, I shouldn't have said that.
Right.
So they obviously both think he shouldn't have said that, or at least that's their public statement on it. They could have, in a united front, come out and said that, and I don't think they would have had to cancel a tour or any kind of future plans or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. It was, for me, the issue is not what Kyle said, because do I think that what am I trying to say here? I don't think that he was telling people to go out there and take a shot at Trump. I don't think so. What I think was he was trying to make a joke about something that it was very topical at the moment, and also make a political statement at the same time. Obviously his dislike of Trump.
Yeah.
But I think that the apology should have taken care of that. I mean, honestly, it's not like Kyle went into, I don't know, a forest in Japan and put videos of it on YouTube or anything.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
When it comes to cancelable offenses, what Kyle Gass did is a very minor offense.
Very minor. One that,
especially when you realize who they are and the kind of jokes they've made and where it's coming from. The problem is there are a lot of people who don't understand that context, and even if they do, they're going to pretend they don't because it fits their narrative.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because their superhero Trump, who isn't a snowflake, is going to get all butthurt because someone's talking about an assassination attempt, I guess.
Right.
But all that said, the Jack Black thing was definitely it was definitely overshot. I would like to think that this is, I don't know, canceling the tour was a lot.
Yeah.
Because if they weren't on tour and they're like, hey, look, all our future stuff, we're going to put that on hold for a bit. Okay, cool. They're letting it die down, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
here's a thought that I literally just had.
Sure.
What if Jack Black did this because he literally fears for his friend's life? Like, he's like, we're on a tour, and like half the population is basically in the cult of Trump. Like, by saying don't miss Trump next time, what if this puts a target on this guy's back? And by being on a public tour, like, who knows what could happen to him?
I mean, I would like to think that, but I think that is an awful big stretch.
It is.
And not one that I'm willing to. I think that a more likely situation is that Jack Black and his agent saw all that DreamWorks money going down the drain.
Yeah, fair enough.
Honestly. I mean, I would love to think the best of Jack Black. I would. He's been Hollywood's sweetheart for a little bit, but it's hard for me to...
At the end of the day, he is still an actor trying to make money.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I think that really boils down our opinion on the whole thing. Is Kyle could have probably had a better platform to say that.
Yep.
I think that if he would have said it on Twitter, weirdly enough, it would not have been as big a deal.
There were still been the people who were upset about it, but like it would not have been.
Sure. It's weird though to think that, and I think that his apology should have been enough, and I think that Jack Black and whatever kind of entity that is surrounding Jack Black, and I don't mean that in a supernatural sense. They moved a little too hard on it.
Yeah. There is a time and a place for certain jokes. It is weird that apparently the time and the place is any time on Twitter and not, on a concert stage. I don't know. But apparently that is the time and the place. Me personally, I probably wouldn't have made the joke at any point in time, anywhere. At least not while everything is so fresh. Tragedy plus time does equal comedy. But at the end of the day, people got shot. People died. No matter how you feel about those people or, anything like that, there was a loss of life, which, isn't cool. But
I will say that Gilbert Gottfried made a 9/11 joke like just a week after.
Yeah.
And he was fine.
Well, I'm just saying from me personally, like I also probably wouldn't have made that joke a week after. But
I probably wouldn't either. But at the same time, it would have been because I knew what the fallout would have been.
Fair enough.
Like, I know when I say something, what my intention is. If I would have said that, if I would have had in my head, this sounds like a funny joke, I would immediately have went to, but it's going to piss some people off, and I don't want to fuck with that. And, I don't want someone taking another shot at him because I said this.
Right.
That's what it would boil down to for me. Now, is it something that I would say in the privacy of my own home? Probably, because I am around people that know that I'm joking, that know that what I say is not real.
Right.
Yeah. So, I just think that his platform was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. The time and place, this was not it.
Right.
But anyway, I think we've pretty much beat that to death. If you don't know how we feel about it by now, just go back and listen to the past 10 minutes, and I'm sure you'll get the gist. So this next topic is one I'd normally save for like a full-size episode, but like it's going to be a little while until we do get another full-size episode. So I do want to go out and talk about it now. The SAG-AFTRA is doing another strike. This time it's for people who work on video games. And it's mostly, as far as I understand it, it's mostly because of a bunch of big companies and their stance on AI, and the people who are working on video games aren't cool with AI taking their jobs, so they're going on strike about it.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, absolutely. Just like when SAG-AFTRA went on strike last time for, the Writers Guild and the Actors Guild, I just want to say we completely support this strike as well. So as soon as I get the chance to research every company that is being struck, we will make sure that we won't be talking about any of those releases or any of those products that are being struck. So I know it includes Activision, Disney, EA, Insomniac, Take-Two, WB Games, and a few others.
Really disappointed about a couple of those, but
yeah. I think some of them, it might be because they are part of bigger parent companies. Once again, I haven't done a ton of research into it, so I can't say that for sure. I will go ahead with my first world problem and complain a little bit that this is going to make our job a little bit harder as far as making sure that we don't talk about
I will
certain
say
stuff.
Not as hard as the last strike.
Yeah. But
we
it
might
is
as
worth
well
it.
We might as well have just taken our vacation right there.
Yeah, that was pretty rough, but worth it. Just like this one will be worth it. So I will put a SAG-AFTRA link in the description for this. Look up what you can, support where you can, and you don't necessarily have to hold yourself to the standard that we're holding ourselves to. Like if you make your money by streaming video games and don't like not play video games because of the strike, you know what I mean, make the money that you have to in order to live, but this is just what we're doing.
But don't scab either. If you're a voice actor and you are offered a chance to work for one of these companies, maybe don't.
Yeah, definitely don't do that. Yeah, if you are going in to do one of these jobs that is being struck, yeah, don't be that fucking guy.
Don't do that.
I understand that, especially if you're listening to our podcast, it might look like your big break and like the kind of shot that you'd never get otherwise. But still, don't be that guy.
Yeah, I'm not saying I wouldn't be hard pressed to not do that, because man, if I had a big break coming, it would be hard for me to say no. But the easy part would come when I realize that big break is coming because others are not able to work because of it.
Yeah. And then as soon as that strike is over, you're out on your ass and you'll never work again because you're a scab.
Yep.
So yeah, we stand with SAG-AFTRA for this strike. We hope you do too. Do what you can. We hope that this one doesn't take as long because maybe the companies learned something from the last one and maybe they'll stop being pieces of shit. I don't know. Wishful thinking.
That's ever going to happen, but
wishful thinking. All right, and the last thing we had to cover in this little special Cantrips episode is there was something that was said recently that kind of has nothing to do with us, but it did come across my TikTok feed, and I don't know, it's the kind of stuff we do talk about. And apparently there are a bunch of right-wing, far-right political groups in Italy who are kind of co-opting Lord of the Rings to describe their beliefs.
And they use the excuse, oh, it means something different to Americans. It's like, does it? it was written by a European, and he's made his beliefs pretty clear.
Yeah. I think their argument is that like the far right movement is in Italy is different than the far right movement in America, and the things that they're fighting for are different from the things that the far right movement is fighting for in America, which I'll be honest with you, I have a difficult time keeping up with American politics, let alone trying to dig into the intricacies of international politics or foreign politics. So I can't 100% look at him and go, you're wrong. But I think the biggest reason I want to bring this up is if you see on your social media that Lord of the Rings is being co-opted by far-right fascists, just know it's not the fascists you're thinking of, maybe. Like, you know, it's not the ones over here. And it doesn't mean you need to stop partaking in Lord of the Rings if that's what you're into.
You get those Lord of the Rings books, watch the movies, get the tattoos, do what you want.
And you don't have to worry about Lord of the Rings sayings and quotes being like dog whistles to far-right movements over here in the US.
Right.
It's a thing in Italy, and it's weird.
And probably just with those people, to be quite honest.
Yeah. And it's just real weird.
Real weird. I don't like it.
No, I don't like it either. It's like, okay, somewhat related, but not exactly what we were talking about. This just like keeps happening to like the things I love and the things in our hobby or our hobbies. I shouldn't say the things in our hobby. Like just our hobbies in like general, like the geek and nerd culture. It just keeps happening where like these piece of shit people just keep getting involved with the things I love, or like worse, they're in charge of creating the things I love. And then more and more things that I love get tainted by these people, and it just fucking sucks.
Yep.
It's like the same with She Who Shall Not Be Named.
Deborah?
When, you know, all the Teenage Wizard books all of a sudden were something
Deborah,
like I couldn't support anymore.
Right.
And Overwatch, for example, when Blizzard went all nuts and tried to defend a bunch of abusers, and it just keeps happening, and I have to be careful about everything that I get into.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me even more scared to get, like, you know, pop culture tattoos.
Yeah.
You know how many Deathly Hollow cover-ups there have been?
Yeah. But even that, like, you see all those people getting the Death Eater tattoos, and it's like,
yeah, that's a little much. Yeah.
That's like a Marvel fan getting a fucking Hydra tattoo.
Which they exist. It's kind of like, honestly, I have 2, arguably 3 D&D tattoos. And I'm like, fucking WotC.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you know, I rationalize it by saying, you know, I got the tattoos before I knew that WotC were pieces of shit, and like my tattoos aren't supporting WotC, they're supporting like the time I spent with my friends playing the game. But yeah, it doesn't make me feel all that much better about it.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's just becoming the world we live in, and I'm not saying that in a this is just something we're going to have to accept kind of way. You know, it's just I feel like it's something that we're just going to have to fight harder for.
Yeah.
And, you know, you get these people that are complaining about cancel culture and everything. It's like, what else can we do?
Stop complaining about the fact that shit's getting canceled and start fighting the reasons it is.
Yeah.
Like, stop fighting the people who are canceling fascists and maybe start fighting fascists? I don't know. Crazy idea, right?
Right. Yeah, I get it.
Stop complaining about people canceling the people who don't want to give people trans rights. And maybe just fight those people and give trans rights. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about politics. I'm just talking out of my ass here. But that's just how I feel. Is like, you know, maybe human beings should have rights.
Yeah. It's like I'm getting tired of people treating me like the bad guy for wanting people to be, you know, have health care.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Why? Why? I don't, But then you get these other people that are like, no, we should make homeless people illegal.
Yeah.
You're the bad bad guy. You're the baddie.
Yeah.
You're the baddie, not me. Jeez. Oh, okay. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a great guy, but I mean, Christ.
So, I think we're gonna wrap this up here because before it becomes like a full episode. But
I'm about to go off on some CEOs. You better hurry up.
Thank you for tuning into this Casters Guild Cantrips, our first ever Cantrips. Sorry for the downer of the episode. If you didn't like our politics or if you feel sad, just go listen to Childish Gambino's new album. Maybe you'll feel better, and then just come back to our normal episodes for the ha-has.
Right. If it helps, I'm not wearing any pants.
Yeah, but to be fair, usually we don't, so it's not anything special.
Dude, you're ruining it.
Email us at castersguild@gmail.com. Let us know the last time you heard a song that made you openly weep. Join us on the Discord. That is where all the fun stuff is happening. And we will see y'all in the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.